During the building of the backyard golf course, you may have noticed a giant pumpkin lurking in the background. I've been making compost for years out of millions of leaves and a lot of coffee grounds, and I'm seriously considering top dressing the fairway and the rough areas of the golf course with the finished compost to boost the soil's growing potential. I've tested the nutrient value of the compost by growing directly in it, and the results have been extremely strong. And now for an added test this year, I'm going to try and grow a giant pumpkin in only a pile of leaves mixed with coffee. So this pile is pretty raw. It's just a pile of leaves that came in here last fall. So they're maybe 7 months old right now. We have some lawn clippings there. We've got a real random mix of compost ingredients. And then of course we have our special ingredient. So you may know the value of these coffee grounds if you watched a couple of our videos where we took a lot of leaves, a lot of coffee grounds, and we made a lot of compost with them. This year, however, we're gonna grow the plant in unfinished compost and see what happens. I've never grown in rough material like this before, but one thing I've noticed in the past is when we were setting up this year's compost pile, we'd always have seeds from the previous fall when it got mixed in with the leaves, and the plants would grow, and they'd actually grow okay. These, I believe, are pumpkin seeds, probably from that 600-pound pumpkin that I just threw back in the compost pile. So these guys seem to be growing well. They seem to be happy. They seem to like it. So I want to take this to the next level and see how big of a pumpkin we can grow out of this. So here's just a close-up of the finished compost. This is multiple years of compost piles all mixed in. It is done, it is complete. You can see how light and fluffy that is. It holds moisture, but not too much. There is literally millions of leaves in here. A couple 1,000 pounds of coffee grounds probably. This is beautiful to grow in, but that rough stuff over there is gonna be a different story. That pile will look like this pile in a year, but for now we're gonna go into this rough pile and plant a pumpkin. Here is this year's pumpkin plant that we're going to go with. It's actually from a 2,100-pound pumpkin, so we have some really good genetics here. I'm gonna give it a shot. We wanna break that 600-pound record from last year. So one thing we learned last year growing the giant pumpkin in a giant pile of compost was the plants get pretty darn big. So I'm going to actually move this pile. This will be the only time I flip and move this pile this season. We also learned last year that the snapping turtles that come out of this river in a couple of weeks love to lay eggs in this hot compost. I want to get that pile moved before I have to disturb the turtles so they can leave their eggs in this pile all year, and we'll be growing a giant pumpkin and some snapping turtles probably here pretty soon. I should have really let this pile settle. There is so much air in there. This pile's going to come down a few inches for sure. I don't even know if I can plant here. It's not bad. This is pure leaves. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna try to find anything half decent to put around this plant. This just feels wrong. We'll see if these roots can take hold. There's so much air, this pile just shakes. So there we are, day one. We will hopefully still have this plant growing 150 days from now. Hopefully it can find what it needs in this pile with its root system. It's only been a couple days on the compost pile here and we're already in tough shape. I've made a critical error. I forgot to put up my groundhog guard. We've lost a leaf already. We only have 2 true leaves here, so I can't afford to lose any more. And we also have pesky cucumber beetles already. I have never in my life seen cucumber beetles come out in a couple days here. Well, the snapping turtle showed up again. They love the heat off this pile and they crawl all over it like mini bulldozers. I'm back after 5 days and the snapping turtles have basically ended this plant. It is completely dead. It's been ripped out. There's really not much left of it, so I'm going to have to start over here quickly and try to salvage this video and salvage this plant. I'm hoping the turtles are soon done laying eggs. There was no turtles this morning, but we're also in a cold front, so I'm not sure if that stopped them from coming out of the river. I soaked 4 seeds for 6 hours this morning, so I'm gonna get these in the ground. I'm just gonna direct seed them. I'm not even gonna put them in a pot. I just want them right into here so that they can come up as quick as possible. There is some heat coming out of this pile, which will help us. So this has been definitely the toughest start to growing a giant pumpkin that I've experienced. Everything seemed to have gone wrong already, but hopefully we'll be back soon with some sprouted plants and no more turtle damage. It's been about 5 days and we have germination. 3 of 4 seeds came up. It's the middle of June, which is a problem. We're gonna have to hope for a good fall weather if we're gonna get a decent pumpkin on here. I'm starting very late. Can't really push these plants because it's the same rules as last year. I'm only going to use water. I don't fertilize. I'm just giving them water all season and they have to find all the food they need in this pile of leaves? Well, it's the first update in a while, and I need to cut back these plants. I have 3 of them still growing. They finally started to vine out. We're July 14th. They've kicked it into high gear. There's some really warm temperatures. So I'm gonna make some room, and we're gonna go down to 1 plant, and that's the one we're going with. I'm going to choose this one. I like the direction it's going. The color looks great. There's other plants just growing naturally out of the compost. Those would have been seeds in the compost pile last fall. Now they've grown as plants. I'll get rid of those pretty soon here. I've just been using them to kind of look at the color. It's been pretty good color. This one's got a little bit of blotchiness, so it's deficient in something. This is a carving pumpkin. You can see a small pumpkin there ready to be pollinated. So we'll crawl up here. These are the 3 plants. 1 plant, 2 plant, 3 plant. We're gonna go with this one. I'm gonna get rid of these 2 right now. Off to the compost pile. All right, so that's it. It's go time now. There's no turning back. This is our only plant we have. If something happens to it, it's just game over. Way too late in the game to get back into it. It's July 22nd, so we're way behind on this growth, but the plant is really moving now. It is time to get rid of all this other stuff growing in the compost pile. Random tomato here. This is a little pumpkin. Seems like a little bit of a waste here for sure, but we're gonna take this plant matter, we're gonna throw it in this year's compost pile so everything gets used up. We're back. It's August 8th and it's time to pollinate. That plant is growing from the top of the pile all the way down here. So this is the leading growing tip. This is a female flower with a tiny little pumpkin underneath it. That's opened up this morning and ready to pollinate. And embarrassingly enough, there's another little pumpkin here that actually opened up maybe 5 days ago. I totally forgot about it. I've been trying to build this backyard golf course. It's been killing me for time. So I missed that pollination. However, as you can see, there's honeybees everywhere here this year. Seems to be a great year for bees. And I'm pretty sure they pulled off the pollination for me like they normally would do in nature. In last year's video, I did some detailed info on how to hand pollinate a pumpkin. I'm not gonna go over that totally. This year, I'll just do a quick version, but basically this plant has a whole bunch of these male flowers, and these male flowers are basically just a long stem with no pumpkin on it. So we pick that off. The bees are doing a great job, so I don't even think we're gonna need this, but this is what you do. You basically I remove these petals, so that is full of pollen. And all we do now is take that and almost brush it on the flower. And that's just transferring the pollen to the flower the same way the bees would do. We're back at the pumpkin. I've definitely been slacking, trying to build a golf green over there. So that's been killing me. The landscaping portion of the summer has been pretty full. I haven't given this pumpkin enough thought, but it's growing. Look what we got. Tucked in these leaves is a pretty good pumpkin. So the one that I pollinated is about the size of a baseball, and we've got some pretty good growth on this one, which is bigger than a basketball. I need to make some room for this thing. It's starting to really grow. Even though it's late in the year, I think we're going to get one that big out of it. We're back at the pumpkin. We got a nice warm day, so I'm going to move this vine. I always wait too long to do this. The main vine's running straight as an arrow past the pumpkin this way. And I want to take it and twist it right at the stem and send it that way so that we give this pumpkin a lot of room here to grow. From this angle, you can now see what I was really trying to do there. That main vine's coming in here, and I want to put a nice sweep in this vine. So when this pumpkin grows, it's going to start to push that way. These shoulders grow out pretty far around the stem, so I don't want any pinch point here. So this is the angle that the pumpkin's going to stay on. I'm happy with that. I'll probably have to dig away some of this hill over here as it grows, but I think it's time to get rid of the other 2 pumpkins that are growing on this plant. I want this plant to know that this is the pumpkin we're going with. I want it to feed all of its energy to this fruit. This is the pumpkin that I pollinated by hand. Crazy how much of a kick this one's got now. These were not that far off in size originally, and the bees pollinated this one. It's August 23rd, so we're getting late in the game here, but you can see now on camera that this pumpkin is starting to put on some size. I have the water pump hooked up, so I want to take a baseline measurement on this pumpkin to get an estimated weight, and then I'm going to put a lot of water to this pumpkin for the rest of the year. No fertilizer, no nothing, that's the rules. Just water onto the leaf pile and see how big we can grow this pumpkin. There are a few apps out there now where you just take 3 dimensions of your pumpkin and it will give you a very accurate estimate of the weight. The 3 measurements are side to side, stem to blossom, and circumference. Our first side to side measurement is 38 inches, stem to blossom end 39 inches, and the final measurement is circumference, and we have 49 inches around this pumpkin. The app adds that all up and we have a 53-pound pumpkin right now. Now that we have our starting weight, let's put the water to this pumpkin and see how big we can get it to grow. We have some growth with this pumpkin. It's September 4th. This pumpkin's kicking along really well. It's doing better numbers than we got last year. I keep a light colored sheet on the pumpkin, and that is not just for suspense. It's actually to cover the pumpkin from the UV rays from the sun. You don't want your pumpkin to mature too quickly and the skin to get hard and cracked because that can simply lead to more cracks down the road as that pumpkin, it grows so fast you can actually crack that skin. So we'll do a quick measurement on this pumpkin. We'll take the blanket off, and that's what we're working with. Circumference is 85 inches. We have a 190 pound pumpkin closing in on 200 pounds. It is doing on average 15 pounds a day. So putting on a lot of weight, doing quite well growing in this pile of leaves here. So anything you're growing in a garden, you always want to look at the leaves as a good indicator on health. Really nice color of green. I've been slacking on the pumpkin growing, been working on these golf greens, trying to build a couple golf greens here in the backyard. It's been killing me, but it's such a nice day. We've had some cold weather, which slowed the pumpkin down, but now we've got 5 days of really nice weather. We've got a good looking pumpkin here. I haven't measured this pumpkin in 6 days. Ooh, 97 inches. We're close to 100 inches. It'll be interesting to see how heavy this pumpkin got because it got really cold. We were almost frost 2 nights in a row, and that will definitely slow a pumpkin down. This pumpkin is estimated at 270 pounds, still doing 13.5 pounds a day. That's quite impressive. We have some good weather coming for the next week, so we'll see if we can keep that 13, 14 pound average going for a long time. September 19th, the weather has been excellent the last 2 weeks. Hard to believe it was almost 2 weeks ago that we nearly had a frost. We've had warm nights since then, full sun, no rain. I've been watering. The pumpkin has been responding, and now I'm going to do a measurement and see how much we've gained. Getting difficult with circumference now as these pumpkins get wider and wider. 112 inches. This thing's still moving pretty well. This thing is 400 pounds already. It is still chugging along, doing 14 pounds a day still. That is impressive. When those pumpkins flatline and don't start to taper off, that's when you can get some huge numbers out of them. I really regret not starting this one earlier. We had so much trouble early on in the season. This would have been a really fun one to get going in early July. That late season sun is tipping now. We're shaded in the afternoon, but you can still see the plant color. The leaf color on that is, like, it is exceptional. It looks like a garden. It looks like a plant that's been fertilized and fed what it's needed. But again, the rules here are I'm only putting water on it. It's getting everything it needs from that pile of leaves and coffee grounds that it's growing out of. Back at the pumpkin plant, I've been neglecting it because look at that. We've got a green haze on the golf greens. So awesome. I planted those 6 days ago. That stuff grows really quickly. So I've been really focusing on that. The pumpkin, it's also green. It looks fantastic. It's October 3rd today. We're in pumpkin month, Halloween month. We're going to make it to the finish line, I believe. We're not going to end up here in a pile of mush from some rot or a split. Some new growth here. Look at this, a female flower. So this plant is still happy enough to be thinking about reproducing. That is what we started with. That is what we have there. I'm going to measure it again. It's still growing. Crazy. We had some good weather, but it is still moving. When they get big, they're difficult to measure. You got to kind of bear hug them. Make sure nobody's looking. Looks a little strange. There we go. Wow, it's gotten big. All right, trying to stay parallel to the ground. Widest point, 126. We are 10'6" around. That's crazy. 540 pounds estimating. We've still got a couple weeks to go. Trying to break that record last year on the pumpkin. Can we hit 600 pounds? I measured 11 days ago and it grew exactly 100 pounds. So it's doing 9 pounds a day on average. Still, we got some cool nights. The plant is old. Some of these leaves are over 100 days old. They've been out here in the sun, the wind, the storms. Look at that thing. It is just a monster. It's a machine. It's October 7th. I got the camera out because this could be the end of our plant tonight. We are forecasting frost. We're going to be 1 degree above freezing. So this could be the end. Look at how good this plant looks still. October 7th. That is late in the year to have leaves that look that good. Look at that. There is a pumpkin hiding on us. Not that it really matters this late in the year, but I'll cut this pumpkin off just to keep all the pounds going to that big pumpkin down there. Oh my God, that's gotta be 20 pounds. Look at the juice coming out of this pumpkin. That plant is still pushing a lot of water through these. I'll try and cut it open for you. That is why these things are so heavy. They have thick, thick sidewalls. As this gets bigger, it will have a cavity of air inside, but the walls are always super thick. We're back at the pumpkin. I'm actually admiring that golf green. How good does that look? It's October 16th. We've dodged multiple frosts somehow. It is late for having no frost, but I'm afraid tonight is the end of the run for this pumpkin. The pumpkin will still be fine, but I'm pretty sure this plant is going to get completely frosted tonight. The leaves will be just cooked and turn dark green and fall over. Always difficult to make this pumpkin look as big as it actually does when you're on camera. It just doesn't quite look the same. So I'm going to try to get behind it. I'm going to measure one more time, only the circumference. I don't want to give away our final number yet. We still might drag a few more pounds out of this thing. We've come a long way since the snapping turtles steamrolled our first plant. 132 inches. That is 11 feet around this thing. That is crazy. There is that much measuring tape around it. Crazy, crazy, crazy how big these things grow, especially in a pile of leaf compost. And that is what a pumpkin plant looks like after a hard frost. It is wiped out. It is game over. That's the end of the line. We got almost to Halloween. It's late October, and I think the fruit's going to be fine. I've kept it covered up. I've got a mouse chewing on the pumpkin, but there's a lot of pumpkin there. I don't think the mouse is going to be able to get inside that, but definitely some bite marks on the bottom. As the weather gets cold, the mice come out and look for some food. This is the end of the road. It is time for our final measurement. We're into some cold nights now. The plant's long been dead. The compost is exposed. That's what those leaves look like now. After almost a year, we're at about 11 months on this coffee ground and leaf mixture. This is the stump of the pumpkin. This is where we planted that seed, and that is how big. Everything about these Atlantic giant pumpkins are big. And that is the root system on it. That is the start of the root system. That went all over the place. So this pumpkin was always pressed up against that pile. So I don't think we were getting a true number on it. We might be even heavier than I thought. Straight down to the ground, 84 inches, 7 feet side to side. That is a pretty good number. And down, 83 inches. And one last circumference. That's a big pumpkin. All the way around, trying to stay level to the ground. It is 133 inches around. When we add up those three measurements, we have exactly 300 inches in dimensions, and that would be 630 pounds. So we've broke our record from last year. Started super late. This plant just grew really well in this pile of leaves here. It went start to finish, really strong growth. And we've got a 630 pound pumpkin, which is all great, except when you got to move these things. We have a lifting basket for pumpkins. They actually make these things. It's always exciting watching these giant pumpkins grow all year. It's incredible how much weight they can put on. But the suspense is always to see if that knot is actually going to hold or if we're going to drop a pumpkin here. I can't see the knot. I should have hooked up from the other side. The bands usually stretch. Whoa. So it's up in the air. Look at that. The stem view, we didn't really get a good look at that because it was always jammed into the pile. There we go, 630 pounds of pumpkin hanging in the air. I'm confident in my knot. I'm not confident enough to go underneath it. And that is what the underside of a pumpkin looks like. All right, I want to know how thick this pumpkin is. Let's find out. One last look at the 630 pound pumpkin. I am going to send it up in the air and drop it. I'm going to put the microphone close by where I don't crush it, but I want to get a sound on this. What does a 630 pound pumpkin sound like when it hits the ground? Microphone's going right here. That was a close call for the microphone, but it survived. And there you see the wall thickness on this thing. And that is where the pumpkins get their weight. Their sides are so thick. And that is what giant pumpkin seeds look like. They're slightly larger than your normal carving pumpkins. We're late in the season here. A lot of the leaves have fallen. A bunch have shown up here for this year's compost pile. In a year, it will look like this, and this is that compost pile that we grew the giant pumpkin in. So the circle of life continues. I will throw our giant pumpkin into that pile of leaves, and this will give food to those millions and millions of tiny microbes that are going to break down that compost and turn it into great soil. So this was a lot of fun. I did not think we could grow a pumpkin this big in a pile of leaves like that, but we did. So thanks for watching. It was a lot of fun.